Hey everyone, it's Tracy Martirana here from Holistic Wellness with Tracy. Thanks for joining me. One of my favorite things about fall is everything pumpkin. And because I try to eat seasonally, I'm usually not eating pumpkin bread or pumpkin cookies at any other time of the year. So when autumn rolls around, I want to take advantage of the season and make some pumpkin forward foods, especially desserts. I turned to my friend Google looking for a new to me pumpkin recipe and found pumpkin blondies. But there were so many recipes out there, I didn't know which one I should choose. The first recipe I tried was a little unusual, which is exactly why I chose it. But let me tell you right now that I didn't have a lot of luck with it. I loved the idea of it because it was high in protein for a dessert and also gluten-free. I loved that it used chickpeas and peanut butter for protein, both of which I already had in my pantry. However, when all was said and done, the blondies were a little too soft and mushy, even after cooking them quite a bit longer than the recipe called for and letting them cool completely before cutting. The only thing I can think of is that I did cook them in a glass baking dish, and I'm wondering if a metal one would have been better. All I can say is that they did taste good, but we had to eat them with a fork. See what I mean? Kind of mushy. Since the first recipe didn't work out as well as I wanted, I tried a second one. This recipe was much more standard. There was no chickpeas, no peanut butter, but the texture was much better. I whipped this recipe up and baked it within an hour. And since it doesn't require any unusual ingredients, you likely have everything you need in your pantry, assuming that, like me, you stock up on a few cans of pumpkin this time of year. In a big bowl, I just combined a couple cups of flour, some pumpkin pie spice, baking soda, and salt. And then I moved over to my stand mixer where I creamed together some salt and sugar. And then once that came together, I added an egg and vanilla. And once that came together, I added some pumpkin puree. Once that was all blended, all I had to do was add the dry ingredients in until it was just blended. Once that was done, I mixed by hand just to scrape down the edges and then to fold in chips. The recipe called for white chocolate chips and butterscotch chips, but I used chocolate and butterscotch chips. You could also skip the chips and just do like walnuts or pecans if you wanted something a little less sweet. And oddly, at least I thought, the recipe said to line the pan with foil rather than parchment paper. So that's what I did. Because this dough was so sticky, it did make spreading it out a little bit of a challenge. I did have to play around quite a bit and just sort of mush it all in place and keep readjusting. But eventually I did get it all smoothed out, popped it in the oven, baked it at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. And then I set the whole pan on wire racks and just let it cool completely. Once it was cool, I used the foil to pull it out of the pan, put it on the cutting board, and cut it into pieces. The texture was definitely better and it tasted great. So go ahead, pull out your pumpkin puree and get baking. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day.